Welcome to HR After Dark, where we talk about everything regarding human resources. So we're here to give you a fresh and unfiltered view about what's happening in the marketplace. So today, I'm Marcia.
And I'm Meghan, and our topic is going to be Radical Candor, which I think you know something about.
I know a lot about.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, Kim Scott wrote an amazing book called Radical Candor, and I had the team read it here and talk about it. But why is that so important today?
So I think with a new generation in the workforce, people are looking for instant gratification about their performance, how they can get to the next level. If we as managers are not giving those employees and teammates the opportunity to have true, honest, and open conversations, they're not going to have that career path. So that's one of the first things I think about when having Radical Candor and having the ability to be empathetic and still, kind, but also hold people accountable.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I would say 50% of why a client calls us is not because they need an HR handbook. Mm-hmm. It's because they need to have the conversation with somebody that they basically don't want to have. Either they're afraid or scared or don't know how to. Yeah. And people really don't like eye contact. Mm-hmm. So I think with Radical Candor, it really gives you good explanations of how to do it and do it well. But it doesn't come overnight. Yeah. You definitely need the training behind it. Mm-hmm. And once you start doing it, you have to do it a few more times. And I think it's also easier when you get older. You definitely get a little bit more immune to the empathy side of the house, mm-hmm. because it's just something that has to be said. Yeah. And it all depends how you say it.
I think with the pandemic, it created a lot of managers that were maybe not ready to be managers. Mm-hmm. Or it was the natural next step to just be a manager, even though maybe they don't need that or want that. So without training, a lot of conversations like beat around the bush, or they have a different solution without giving the true feedback. How do you think, other than with time, mm-hmm. how do you think people can learn how to have these harder conversations and open feedback in the workplace?
Oh, that's a great question. I think people watch other people, and they watch how they react. So if the leadership isn't really giving good feedback, don't expect your managers to give good feedback. Mm-hmm. So you really have to be that beacon and say, hey, I want to talk to you. Let's go through what went well, what didn't go well. And, let's get this moving on the right ship here. And I think managers pick up on that because they feel if the environment is safe to talk, they're going to be okay talking as well. Yeah. But if the environment is not safe to talk and they get reprimanded because of speaking out, then it gets very closed down, which is also lethal to a culture. Mm-hmm. Very quickly, it'll shut that down. Yeah. So you have to be very cognizant of that and have people who are almost like your ambassadors that are watching how people react to other people, mm-hmm. to make sure that, hey, let's have a conversation. And this with working with me, I am the first person to say I screwed up a million times a week. Yeah. But because I do it, I feel like everybody else feels okay to say,
they feel open.
I've screwed up too.
Right.
Yeah.
Two strategies that I've liked, and it's hard. Remember when I first started, mm-hmm. I was like, gotta tell you something. And now I'm like, watch out. I feel like it only progresses you when you have to let your guard down and have these conversations. Yes. But two strategies I love. One is, the sandwich of some good news, a piece of feedback, and then follow with a path mm-hmm. forward. People don't want to just hear the bad stuff. And so having the empathy in the way you're delivering information, love that. The other part of this is something that not everybody will be comfortable with, but saying, are you in a great spot for feedback today?
Yep.
Because everybody has stuff going on. Yep. And when they don't, no one knows what's going on in each other's lives sometimes. Never. So it's really important for us to say, are you in a good headspace? Yeah. Can I give you this feedback today? Can we have an open and honest conversation? And if they say no, then pick a different day. That's been working for us. I think we do that here really well.
Yeah, but that's a godsend. If I had only had people back then tell me, can I pull you aside mm-hmm. and are you coachable today? Yeah. Can I talk to you about something? Because to me, I was always how to make things better, faster, quicker. Yeah. And I still am to this day. So I love it when someone says,
now, are you?
Yes, quiet over there. But I do believe a lot of people don't like that. I still get people very defensive when I say, can I coach you? Mm-hmm. And when they come back to me and say, Yes. I'm like, that means no, and just tell me how you really feel. But I think people forget that work is work. It's good to be around friends and all too, but you have to be professional about it.
Yeah.
It's not about like high school again. Work, you need to get stuff done. You're accountable for things and you have to speak your mind, but you can do it in a way where it's not defensive, but basically you're making your point.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I feel like these harder conversations or having the openness to have, the word I want to use actually is psychological safety. When people can come to work and feel, actually one of our colleagues said that about our firm recently, they feel psychologically safe in our environment. That is one of the best compliments you can have as a business owner because
Absolutely.
You're making people feel confident
Yep.
and comfortable to be themselves.
Yep.
And those radical candor moments and hard conversations are making them better
Yes.
as people, as professionals. And so, that's like, I always kind of like think about those things together.
Yep. But you have to learn that way. I also think when people are very concerned, people are very open and about their salaries right now. So they're all talking about their salaries. And I tell people, I'm like, stop doing that. I said, learn about yourself and your salary and where you should be at. Do your research out there too. But, by doing that to other people, sometimes that one person could be lower than you. It's going to make it really awkward. And if you have a problem with that, you really should be able to talk to your manager and say, hey, something's bugging me.
Yeah.
And can I just have a few seconds to talk to you about it? And if that's difficult with your own boss, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out like, okay, how can I get around this to make sure I feel like I'm being listened to?
Yeah.
Because you got to speak up for yourself. But there's right ways about it and there's wrong ways about it. You can't. The boss doesn't want to hear about it from somebody else on the team saying,
Right.
hey, this person's asking about salaries and is upset and all too. It's like there's a disconnect going on. So there's two-way street there. The manager should also be on top of that as well to say,
Totally
hey,
agree.
what's going on? Let's go out for lunch. Let's talk real quick. If they're remote, let's say, hey, let's get on the phone and talk about how things are how things at home.
Yeah.
And I think right now too, everybody's so angry focused and litigiously focused as well that they forget to ask the question, hey, what's going on with you?
I was just going to bring that up. I think one of the major conversations we have with clients is that they're so eager to get rid of somebody.
So eager.
Oh, this person's not performing and they're just different than they were when we hired them.
Yep.
Well, did you ask them what's going on?
Yep.
Because that's a first starting point. I totally agree with you when you brought that up.
Yeah, and we find out that something's wrong with their spouse, something's wrong with their child, something just had a death in the family, they don't want to talk about it. There's so many different reasons, and it's like, okay, you have to give them a little bit of leeway. I mean, there's obviously they still got to get their work done kind of a deal, but there's a fine line there, and automatically everybody assumes, well, they're not doing their job. I'm like, okay, well, they've been here 10 years, and they've done their job great.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they're not doing their job. So let's find out why before you pull a plug on somebody. And I think people are just so fed up and the patience is like 0, which is why everybody's so angry at each other right now.
Yeah. What do you think business owners, I mean, obviously we're 17 years into the business. What do you think some strategies that other founders can utilize to make sure that their managers, whether it's executive leadership, senior leadership, first-time managers, what can they utilize? What skills can they utilize to create trust with their teammates?
Well, I think that if you're not afraid to use coaches. Like, I think sometimes CEOs, they get in their own way because they built their baby. They're really good at what they do. They might not be the best at managing people. A lot of them aren't, and you have to get out of their way because some people need a little bit more help. Some people don't have the engine that could 24/7. A lot of CEOs are like, well, why aren't they like me? Because they're not, and you have to respect that and say, hey, they bring really great qualities, but they're not going to be a you. Yeah. So maybe they need coaching in one way or another, but be careful before you spend the money. Make sure they want to get coached because there's coachable people and there's definitely non-coachable people. And that's a very expensive proposition.
It is. I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot and ask you a very vulnerable question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready? Do you want to take a sip of that? I'm just feel like maybe you need a
gulp.
Yeah, big gulp. So
I'm ready.
You're a perfectionist.
Okay.
How do you not settle's not the right word, but one thing I noticed about you, you're very good at putting people in the right seats. and finding a skill set and putting them into opening people's eyes to opportunities.
Yes.
How do you, when there's something going on that's not going the right way, what's your conversation look like with that person?
So first I go in my office, I take a long step again. I have to remind myself they're not me, and they have strengths in one area and maybe not another. And I have to look at it as, what am I going to get mad about? The uncontrollable. And that doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of my time and their time. So I tell myself, like, okay, what's the best way? How is this person going to react to my conversation with them? And then I'll really figure it out and saying, hey, I think you're so great in this, just like that sandwich before. But I really think I need a little help on here. Do you need help to get there?
Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll say, oh, I didn't realize that. I'll start working out myself and do it. They don't want any help. Sometimes they're embarrassed that I told them that. But I only think it's key to tell them that, because some people have some amazing skills they don't always use, nor do we know about them. And I'm not a mind reader. I wish people would speak up more about their skills, but you have to be careful how you do it, because most people aren't going to be like us. We were CEOs for a reason. We were crazy entrepreneurs that stayed up 2 o'clock in the morning. The average person doesn't do that. And you have to accept that as a CEO. You have to accept that as a manager and a leader. Not everybody's going to be like you. But it's a big gulp. And you have to figure out what is acceptable, what's not acceptable.
I also feel, though, you are very good, and this is a hard skill to learn probably as a founder, at saying, okay, that was done better than me, or I like that idea better than the idea that I had. Because you hire people around you to do the work that you want to accomplish. And I think that's a hang up for some other CEOs and founders. And so being able to accept the growth of the company with these, I feel like that's probably a hard skill.
But if you want to scale up your company, you have to let go. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that is really hard. I just had a conversation with an individual this week, and he was saying, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I really can't afford this person, this and that. I said, first you said you want to hire this person. You said about this person. I said, you really need to write down in front of you and figure that out. And you might not know how to do it. And, he wanted me to be on his advisory team. And I said, I don't think I'm the right person for your advisory team. I think you really need a true advisor who's been there, done that, to know how to grow that. You need to hear from that person hard knocks, because you are getting in your own way, and you've been doing this for over 10 years, and you're getting frustrated. Now you're getting frustrated at people. I said, you're getting frustrated at the process. And I said, you got to pull that apart and put it back together again, which is really hard and difficult, because that usually means letting go of people that you like.
Well, that's where the radical candor comes in. You have to keep those relationships going, whether they work for you or not. You're never burning a bridge. So it's just having the ability to just stay professional, but also keep the personal stuff out of it.
It's hard. I think, as we found out this past year as well, and we've got great people that work here. We've got great alumni have worked here. But I tell people this is more for a business decision than it is a personal decision. And one day you look back and just say, well, you can see what they're doing. A lot of them today, they're flourishing. They're doing great. And I said, I knew that probably wasn't the right fit for you. And I've had people before say, I love his culture. I'm like, I know you do, but the work is still the work. And you got to figure it out, because if not, I need somebody who wants to do the work. But I appreciate the culture too. But it's a fine line. It's not ever been a personal decision. It's more of a business decision. And, it's funny. I got told by my advisor not too long ago, it's not so much you having the friends in your company that you're going to get ranked on. It's basically how you manage and run the company. And don't forget that. And I said, okay, so you got to take off your empathy ears sometimes and your learning ears and put it in what's best for the business. And they are really hard decisions sometimes. And a lot of people right now in particular are going through some really difficult times. You have to make decisions that are basically for the company, not because it's a nice thing to do.
Here's another interesting question. How do you identify in the recruiting process whether a person is going to be able to be mature enough to have feedback? Because I think about teammates over the years, and I think about other companies I've worked in, and you have that person that's going to say, I had no idea I was doing that. Thank you so much for the guidance. And I have other people who are, storm out. So how do you identify that in a person? Because that's a huge part of your business.
It's hard. It doesn't come naturally. You have to ask certain questions. I always start off an interview all the time. I put the resume upside down. I'll just say, what do you love to do? And it's funny how they respond. Because some people will respond, is that work or pleasure? And I'm like, both.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you love to do as a person. Because maybe this role isn't for you. Maybe your resume looks outstanding, but when you first tell me that first thing in 1 minute and what you love to do, that's what you should be doing in your life. And then when I start pulling that out of them, I'm almost coaching them at the end saying, well, actually, you should be really good at this instead. And do you want to do this? People will tell you what they want you to tell you because they want the job.
Yeah.
It's my job basically to open that up and go deep dive into it and ask about experiences and exposure. I love hearing about what did you do? And then when I constantly hear like, well, we did this, I'm like, that's great. What was your role? How did you execute that? How did you herd the cats? What did you do? I love people on teams. So when I hear they're part of a band or they're in teams or whatever in high school, I'm like, okay, great. They know how to get along with people and work together because they have to be all one synchronicity. But it's hard. I'm not perfect at it. I'm definitely not been perfect at it, but I'm getting better the older I get.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest, like one of the hardest parts, obviously, in recruiting in general. But just thinking about, being able to, as the people grow into managers, like have that ability to also receive feedback. Because it's the more vulnerable and open you can be as a leader, they're going to feel comfortable coming to you and being like, listen, you didn't give me the support I needed or like the deadline set. And that's why I didn't hit that. And like, I think it's a two-way street. It shouldn't always be about, looking down and giving feedback.
And it's also, I think, with today's world, everybody's afraid of making a mistake. And the young ones today, I want people to say to me, hey, I made a mistake on that yesterday. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And be okay with it and live up to it. And to me, the sooner you peel that Band-Aid off, the better your career is going to be because it gets easier. And I always tell my son that I said, anytime you make a mistake, just own up to it quickly as you can. You might be totally embarrassed and all. It's more likely you won't get fired. I said, if anything, you start really creating trust. And I think that's what's lacking a lot right now in the work environment is trust. And if you could just build it up by saying, hey, I messed up, I'm so sorry on it. But do something about it too. Just don't be like, woe is me kind of a thing. But say, this is what I did to fix it. I love seeing that because that shows me initiative, drive, trust. And I will go above and beyond for you if you do that with me. But don't behind my scenes and don't go behind my back. And, when I hear people chit-chatting and I address it right away in my town halls, you know that. And I'm like, I'm hearing too much chit-chat out there, people. I said, it all comes back to me. I said, I'm going to address it. So either y'all stop it or we're going to address it a different way. So
it's hard. That's hard to crush.
It is.
There's always going to be people who maybe don't get the full potential out of their role or the company. And there's going to be chatter. It's hard. It's hard no matter what level you are to hear it.
I know. It just tells me they're probably in the wrong seat.
Because
something's missing in their lives for them to have to talk outside the box like that. And I always wish like having that hardcore conversation, what's missing? Because obviously I'm hearing the chatter, you're not happy. What can I do to make that better? Or if I can't, what can I do to get you out to do something else? But, sometimes it's too late, that conversation where I'm just had it, but not too many times. Most of the time it's been pretty good.
I feel like it always comes back to communication.
Always.
Like thinking about our surveys and our client surveys, it's always like not enough communication or not the right communication or whatever it is. Like you always want to make sure you have something for everybody. So whether it's like on Teams or you have it on email or videos or town halls, whatever it is, the more transparent you can be in the communication, you can over communicate and people still wouldn't be happy. But I think that is a big part of Radical Candor in general is communication and making sure it's the right communication is what they need.
But it's a fine line, like you said. But the more times you do it, the better. I think it also comes from the top. Like you got to be open and transparent at the top to move yourself all the way down. I think if you start doing that, but you have to teach people how to do it. Most people, it doesn't come naturally. And so as a manager, it's like, hey, I messed up on this. I'm really sorry. Are you okay with that? To your person that reports to you, they have to see that you're human. And I think people forget that. So I think we're actually, moving more in that direction. But I think for the young ones out there who are listening to this, definitely speak up more but be realistic. Don't have the expectations out there a little bit higher than they should be for that young. But, write down what you want and how you want to get there. But It's
And
a
ask
journey.
for training.
Ask for training.
And
Yeah.
leaders train.
Yeah.
Like
well,
thinking about
they need training too.
Really, truly, because I feel like that is the only way that people are going to get what they need out of their companies.
But be open for feedback, because that's the only way you really learn from people that you trust that give that feedback.
Yeah.
Which is really
I
good.
forget at which point it started to click for me. But I remember when I started my career, I was 22 and I had like 100 people under me. And I'd be like, oh, you were late today. Like, I was always so worried about how they were going to react when I was just doing my job. I think I learned that I'm so sorry
That's
that
not
you
today.
came late.
You changed a lot.
I'm so sorry that you showed up late. It definitely comes with age and experience and confidence that you have, and you know what you're doing and you want the best.
Yeah.
But I do think it's that relationship that you build with the person.
Yeah.
Then you shouldn't have to be scared to ask them where their work is or, what's going on in their personal life to make sure everything's okay. You're not missing something.
Yeah.
So it's about like the really truly building those relationships, which I think gets everybody talking, everybody comfortable. So I'm so sorry that you showed up late.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? I can't even see you doing that anymore.
I know.
So
No. But I think, that was always the feedback you gave me. It's like you have to hold people accountable and you have to not be afraid to have hard conversations. And it definitely
give them leeway, but
gets easier.
not too much.
Yeah.
I always look at like the liner in the ocean. You can give them some leeway, but too much, they're falling off.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in life as
Yeah.
well. So, this is a great conversation.
This is a great
today.
conversation. Yeah.
I love this.
What are you drinking in your cup today?
You know what? It's like a mystery. Every time I do these, you don't really know what's in it. It's not chocolate milk. So
Mine's a little mystery too.
What's yours?
It's a secret.
It's not ginger ale. I know that. There's no bubbles.
There's no bubbles. No.
All right.
No.
But hey, cheers to us.
Cheers.
Woo!
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in for HR After Dark. And until then, keep those conversations open and honest.